My theory is that Oda in One Piece narrates and is inspired by two real stories. The first story is the history of our world. The second story is the manga's history, especially the history of shonen genre. I've already explained the link that exists between One Piece and the history of our world. Today, explaining the relationship between One Piece and the manga's history, I try to figure out who are the real people that inspired some Oda's key characters. The history of the modern manga was born thanks to the young Osamu Tezuka. After the detonation of the atomic bombs in World War II, Tezuka, through his manga, gave vent to the trauma that the Japanese population, victim of US imperialism, lived at that time. In his career, with his works, he created and inspired many currents which then became real genres. The level of Tezuka's contribution in the creation of the modern manga has been so high that, in Japan, he is nicknamed the God of Manga. Journey to the West, a pillar of Oriental literature, is an irreverent work of the year 1500 that, criticizing and mocking the imperial government of the time, introduces the reader to Taoist philosophy. All this, through a fantasy tale. The protagonist of this novel is Sun Wukong, a monkey born from the rock, and that will stand out for his courage, his inhuman strength, and for his irreverence. In Tezuka's animated series, based on the novel, Goku, brave and irreverent protagonist, is the head of a band of monkeys with which he robs the rich and greedy merchants that cross his territory. Goku, bored by the usual raids, aspires to do something bigger. This desire will lead him to depose the evil king, becoming the new king. Not satisfied, he will challenge the King of Heaven, turning the kingdom of heaven upside down, until he will be stopped by a giant Buddha who will imprison him inside a mountain of stone. So far, the work of Tezuka is essentially quite similar to the novel. The first major difference is that in the original story, Sun Wukong is imprisoned inside the Mountain of the Five Elements, where the protagonist will be locked up for centuries. It's a key part of the story because this is the mountain that forges the spirit of Sun Wukong, and when he will be free, he will begin a growth path that will let him not abuse his powers. In the original novel, that mountain represents Taoism. In the version of Tezuka, who was actualizing the story, the Mountain of the Five Elements becomes a mountain that, emerging from the soil, forms a fist raised to the sky. So Taoism leaves room to one of the symbols of the proletarian revolution. All the great mangakas of the second generation grew up reading the works of Tezuka. Among these, the one that most stood out as a mangaka, becoming a little bit the heir of Tezuka, was Akira Toriyama. He, with Dragon Ball, became the most popular mangaka of his generation, and obtained an international reputation too. Goku, the protagonist of Dragon Ball, is inspired both by the novel Journey to the West and Tezuka's Monkey. All the great mangakas of the third generation grew up reading Dragon Ball. Among these, the one that most has stood out as a mangaka, becoming the heir of Toriyama, is Ichiro Oda, creator of One Piece. The last name of Oda's protagonist is Monkey, while the name of his father is Dragon. It's as if Tezuka, Toriyama, and Oda had passed a relay from generation to generation. Not only they all three have reached the highest peaks as mangakas of their generations, but also they have passed the same message, an anti-imperial message, maintaining the spirit and the tradition of Journey to the West. The passage of the straw hat from Roger, Shank, and Luffy is the passage of a symbolic crown among the figures who have conquered and revolutionized the imagination of the masses. Seen through the filter of the history of manga, Goldie Roger is Osamu Tezuka. Roger gave birth to the great age of piracy, Tezuka to the great age of manga. Shank the Red is Akira Toriyama, and Luffy is Oda himself.